All right, welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Eman. This is the Purposeful Patriarchs YouTube channel, where we discuss the similarities and differences in the breakdown of the family and marriage. And today, what I'm going to have a discussion about, off the top of my head, all my episodes are unedited, so I just talk about stuff straight off the dome. But this is a conversation about Kevin Samuels, and this is a conversation about a lot of the topics that I bring up in regards to the Black community and the fact that there is a massive matriarchy and this has a lot of social and cultural control over the Black community. And we ask ourselves, I know Kevin Samuels is a controversial figure, but I'm one of the few people that will actually say I back a lot of most of his points. And even though he passed away over 4 years ago, he's still somebody that holds high esteem in the Black manosphere, where we talk about the historical issues that have affected the Black community, specifically the culture of Black women. And in this episode, courtesy of BGS Idmore, I'm going to title this "The Conversation That Essentially Red Pilled Kevin Samuels." What we don't like to discuss within the Black community is actually that how do people get to where they get to and form their actual opinions. And what you're going to see in this conversation is a lot of the stuff that I've discussed in the Moynihan report, which talks about the culture of single mothers. And yeah, there's so much to discuss. So what I'll do is, rather than me talking, if you do want to get in contact with me to speak or to show what's actually happening in the Black community, please just give me a shout. But yeah, without further ado, let's have a conversation and listen to some of the call, because this is a conversation where Kevin Samuels actually spoke to his family on Thanksgiving, I believe. So let's hear what he had to say. Now, what you see in this conversation is that Kevin Samuels actually broke it down and is having a conversation with VJ David and his camera within the Black community. So let's hear what happens.
Go ahead, Kevin. Jump in, because I know your time is limited.
Oh, I just hey, what's going on?
Hey, what's up? It's the style of profile, the Tulsa style.
Oh, yeah. The smoothly.
You touched a serious nerve with that met the white woman there thing.
Oh, I know. How do you think it'd be that big?
Oh, it's gonna get worse.
Oh, Jesus. Don't tell me.
What's At Thanksgiving, I actually went to my mother's house, and my God, do you know that these women actually made it? You know, it was 25 plus people there, all three generations. They tried to run the men out of the kitchen, men out of the dining room.
Really?
They wanted the men to go sit in a complete different room, but the women were going to sit at the big decorated table with a table right next to it.
Yeah, this is what we mean about the matriarchy. So the women were about to run out the men on the day of Thanksgiving, and we're going to see where this actually needs to. And I'll let this try and run for a few minutes.
What? I came in, they said, let's come in and do the prayer, so on and so forth. And I looked and he prayed it. My stepfather, who's 77 years old, was there. My mom was like, okay, guys, make your plates and go to the little room. The ladies got the big room. And I was like, whoa, what did you just say? And the guys were going to go make their plates. I'm like, what did you just say, Mom? He's like, yeah, the women are going to sit in here and the kids are going to, you guys going to be up there watching the football game. I was like, I love you, Mom, but I never saw this happen at your mother's house. Why are the men leaving the big tape? Well, it's just gonna be, it's gonna be in here, girls. We cooked all this food anyway. Yeah, they couldn't. And I'm like, so, you're just gonna. So, needless to say, they basically saw me and my mother have a red fuel conversation. I was like, this is part of the problem we have going on in the Black community. You men are gonna go truck in there because they don't want to make any fuss or any problem. I'm not supposed to say nothing because you're my mother. Yet you're emasculating an entire group of men, for kids to 7. This is the problem in the black community. What's your man feel? I'm like, go ahead, your ants.
Dude, now
I play King's L. Joey, your video.
really? Wow. Okay.
They were, a lot of these women were able. They were 55 plus.
Oh, okay. Oh man, you opened a big can of worms up with this.
I did. Dude, that as far as I'm concerned, they trying to get out. I mean, we're talking every man. We were going to go sit in the living room. I'm like, this is our code. So what ended up happening is we had a 4-hour long conversation about the problem in the black community. And you're going to probably see some new subscribers, some people who come to your channel asking you questions.
Wow. Okay. Because even though basically the whole series was just supposed to be just an observation, because I told Grind Wheels I had a video coming for, it was supposed to be one video, and it kind of, and the women got mad and said, okay, let me prove it to you. So I showed them, and then one of my subscribers said, look, I got remember the Jake Jones video up with we saw about black women. I said, I looked at it again and said, yeah, man, you're right. So I actually did that with a commentary, and all of a sudden this shit kind of blew up. I said, what?
Yeah, I'll do a reaction to the James Earl Jones piece. One of the things I really appreciate about Kevin Samuels and also BJ Sidmore is that they go into the history. And one of the things I strongly believe, even with my biblical and Christian beliefs, is that if you see a repeated pattern of history, it's hard, it's known, impossible, unless there's incredibly extenuating circumstances, but you can't defeat patterns over time. Like, you can't defeat truth over time. So if something has happened historically, when we have to look into that and see exactly what were the circumstances that caused these things to happen. So in the black community, there is what you call a black matriarchy, which I've discussed, which the system of white supremacy took out the strong fathers during slavery, during Jim Crow, and this created a mother-centered pattern because they became the stability within the black community. Okay, so therefore, the community were able to continue on because of the strength of black women, because they had to be that. But that created a culture, okay? That created a culture where education, finances, everything that the man would do now actually ran through the women, okay? And this is what you still see today. This is what Dr. E. Franklin Frazier pointed out, Dr. Kenneth Clark pointed out, that black women are running. Essentially, they have the cultural capital within the black community. And obviously, because of bondage, that is kind of understandable. But even after bondage, this is still the pattern today. Okay, this is why they talk about, having education more than black men. And they don't realize that that's how the system's set up. And I was talking to somebody today just about the fact that when it comes to out groups or sort of minority groups, it's very important for the system, the dominant group, to pass education and resources through the women, because essentially it cripples the men, because they are the actual threat against the power structure. Okay, if you empower the men, if you educate the men, they are posed as a threat, because they will because the thing about men is that men will buck up. Men are not just simply movers, but they're also shakers, and they will basically fight for revolutions. And there's different books on this stuff, like the Counter Revolution of 1776, where we talk about things like Nat Turner, and you see the history about him, reading his Bible, Frederick Douglass reading their Bible, and they begin to turn the screw on the system of white supremacy. And that revolution was started by men, and there's hundreds of different slave rebellions led by men. And this is why education was a tool that they used to hold back the black community. But black women used that as a badge of honor and as a sort of a stick to beat black men with. But yeah, let's continue in this discussion in terms of the matriarchy and the myth of white womanhood and what red pill Kevin Samuels.
Wow, what the hell?
Well, I think this might be bigger than your Monahan beat.
Well, because James Earl Jones is such an icon in Black America, and he came from that time period. You know, I'm sitting there.
Yeah, if you don't know who James Earl Jones is, and that's the king of Zamunda. If you ever watched Coming to America and Eddie Murphy, one of the reasons why this is such a powerful excerpt is that he actually married a white woman. And he talks about the history, and this is why I'll need to do this as a prerequisite as to what red pilled Kevin Samuels. This might be the the prequel of what red pilled Kevin Samuels, and we'll talk about the myth of white women then and how that affects black women. But I'm not sure if I'll do that anytime soon.
They're listening to a lot of these women, and, you know, you got the biggest portion of the group was what baby boomers and Gen X.
Right.
And I tied it all into it. Like, look at all my cousins across the table, all of you beautiful women. You with your children and your grandchildren, but you're all saying, "Ooh, my God." I was like, Mom, like, did you say that though?
Yes, he did. He said it.
Yeah, I was like, Mama, I love you. But you know, if you said what you said, I was like, I can roll out the statistics such as soap weed. You know, in Black community, you'll say, prove it to me. And then I roll out the numbers, and then you'll say that don't exist because I don't like the numbers. My mom came in and basically tried to stop this entire conversation.
Yeah, and this is what we say. This is the reason why black women don't like the statistics. They're happy for you to tell them all the good things, but when it comes to statistics, this is one of the biggest reasons why the black manosphere is really blowing up right now, because one of the things that's happened over a long period of time is that black women have been able to lie on black men about certain things, especially things around being the deadbeat fathers, the fact that there's so many black women who are single mothers, and all these sorts of different things. And for a long time, when you see the 61% single motherhood rate or the 69% out of wedlock rate, you also think that the same is on the other side. And this is why I talk about the fact that within the black community there are two different cultures. There's the single baby motherhood culture, which is going one way, and then there's the black men's culture of never fathering children, going in the opposite direction. And this is why there is such a what you call a gender war, or a splitting of or a fracturing of the community, because we've seen historically now that a lot of the things that black women have said a lot of them are lies. And this is why I take the position, I take a moral stance that if black women don't continue to still keep lying and still keep breaking down the community by choosing to not build families with black men, to lie on black men, to not get married to black men, then there's no way that this culture can actually survive. And this is why I talk about these things, not just in abstract terms, but carrying on the conversation to actually show people exactly the devastating effects of the fact that the matriarchy is essentially hiding and covering all of the lies and the dysfunction and destruction that's happened at the hands of black women.
I was like, and she was like, well, show me what you're talking about. I wrote out the video. I want to believe that. It's like, remember what I just said? Like, if she wasn't my mother, I was like, if she wasn't my mother, I could check her. Because like shit, I have to be a difference because they live in a matriarch. It's like, the reason you're trying to move me out is because you guys run the, man, we wade into it. And
So
You know,
let him finish. Let him finish.
it wasn't an angry conversation. It was a conversation because I have a certain amount of respect to my family, and they sat there and listened. And I was like, look, guys, Generation X, you're all by yourselves. Look at my mom's generation. I'm like, Mom, you got married at 55 years old, where you finally decided to settle into your femininity. Your sisters are living that coven thing right there. And I was like, the net result of it is you can end up with none of these boys protected. All these women is a strong, independent black woman, and everyone is upside down, and we're trying to figure out the problem in the black community, but it ends up representing itself right here in time. So
Yeah, that's one of the things I always say about about black women is that if they think you are lying, just do the numbers for yourself. Just think about the black women that you have in your life. Think about how many of them are married, how many of them are having children out of wedlock. And even in the UK, and this is why I talk about the pattern of Black America now being repeated over in Black UK. And I think Sky News dropped an article basically saying that 51% of the Black community is run by single mothers. So we're approaching that 61%. I know Dr. Valerie Bernard, who's a Christian sociologist, looked into it in the Black church. Over 61% of Caribbean women are single mother-led homes and families. So there are sociologists and brilliant black people who are doing wonderful work to try and understand what's going on in the black community. And this is why I approach it with the purposeful patriarchs doctrine. Though I look at the academic and government research and reports and books, we look at the statistics, we look at the media from back in the day, we look at men's personal experiences and women's personal experiences, and then we also look at scripture to understand exactly what's happening in the black community. Because with these lies continuing to fracture the community, we can never really build the generation that we know and need in the black community. So, and this is why it's important to talk about the black matriarchy. For a long time, they've spoken about black men do this, black men do that, black men do this, black men do that. And what we need to do is we need to actually have a conversation on the other side of the aisle. They've spoken ill about black men for over 60, 70 years. So now it's time to actually, and what I've noticed in my research is that black men have continually had this conversation, but because the three axes of evil that are against the black man, this conversation has been shut down. Black women will result to the fact that you hate them, or you're demeaning them, and all these sorts of, you're blaming the victim, all these sorts of different things. Even when the Moynihan report came out in 1965, they basically tried to shut it down and say they're this strong matriarch figure and all these sorts of different things. And the Moynihan report is true. Okay, because they never fixed it, and a lot of this stuff is still with us, whether it's in Black America or it's in Black Britain. We are very comfortable with the matriarch. We're very comfortable with women going ahead of their men. We're very comfortable with the fact that women could dominate conversations and men are supposed to shut their mouths and take on what women are saying. But one of the reasons why I push back on a lot of this is because it's actually causing a moral decay and death within the black community. And I cannot see that, being married, raising daughters. I can't look at that and see that and say that I want that for my family. And this is why I speak out on this stuff. And if we don't change it, then it's going to be the death of the black community. Let's continue.
I couldn't swallow that. I couldn't go sit in a room. I was prepared to walk out and never come back because that was just a bridge too far.
Well, so what ended up happening?
What ended up happening is my mother ended up having to swallow her pride because so many of the women in there wanted to hear this information because they were looking around saying, "It's Bill White. I am by myself. My daughters are by themselves. My boys are emasculated. You just do this." And they start talking about the church and this and that. And I was like, boy, you can't talk about it's like the religious piece or not. We have to look at the 60s when you talk about the welfare states and so forth. And, and here's the beautiful part. A lot of them were alive at that time. And that's how I started off. I was like, remember in the 60s, up until the 60s, black men married at a rate of 80%. I know you're going to talk about how black men ate this, ate that. We don't marry white women. But until the 60s, broke or indifferent, black men married black women at a rate of 80%. Our black women are the least married. You remember what happened in the 60s where we were living on the east side. How many people left the east side and went for the projects when they got that check, but when men had to leave. Women were sitting around like, yeah, I remember they have a lot of younger women had heard it. So this is the first time they actually had to hear it from 60-plus-year-old, 55, 58, 60-plus-year-old women said, yep, that did happen.
Yeah. So again, This is the reason why the black community is in such chaos and disarray. And there are many other issues, and this is why I talk about the nuance of history. Um, what happened, and I had a conversation with one content creator, I forgot her name now, and so many black women have heard about the Moynihan report. They've heard about the fact that when it came to the 1960s, that black women decided to leave the homes that black men had built, to go into the ghettos, to go into the slums, to go into the projects. Okay, they decided to leave the black man to go into those places, essentially causing the breakdown of the black community. But what black women have done historically is that they've said that your father left. Your father left us. Your father doesn't care about you. Your father is a deadbeat. Your father doesn't want to do anything for his family. And this is why it is so painful to me. Like that, even because a lot of us, even if this may not have happened to us, okay, we have seen this, whether it's in the UK or whether it's in America, we have seen the destruction of the black community. And for a long time, there's been a lot of guilt that's been placed on black men, and it's simply not true. This will be hung on your head, and it is not true. And this is why I call this stuff out. I want to try and have and stimulate a conversation, because black women, when they get before the judgment throne of God, they're going to have to answer all these lies. And if they, a lot of black women claim to be Christian, but they're doing all manner of nonsense and evil. And this is one of the most heinous crimes known to man, is to go against the group, to go against your men, to go against the family unit. And you expect that God will bless you, that you will have a good family, that you'll be prosperous in this world. When you align yourself with things like the ideology of white supremacy and you take their money, when you align yourself with white feminism, which is a racist ideology, which I've put that on social media, when you align yourself with what's best for you as an individual rather than what's best for your husband or the person that you've chosen to have a child with, how can you expect that God will bless you? And this is why you will see the destruction more and more. They said it in the Moynihan report that the modern means of communication will break down the isolation of the world of the black folk. So this is something that is not new, but black women do not want to be honest. They do not want to tell the truth about how the black community got this way. And this is, and because I've been looking at this stuff for nearly 7 years, I've now been enlightened. I'm just like, this is crazy. You have black women who are divorcing their husbands for no reason, because as Dr. E. Franklin Fraser said, whether it comes to mating or family matters, the Negro woman's desires are paramount, and she has never learned to be under the subordination of masculine authority, whether it's financial or by any means of any necessity. So this is not new, but every time you want to try and move the needle and have this conversation, black women will tell you, no, it's not true, it's not true, it's not true. But yes, we are so comfortable with single mothers. This is now happening in the white community because of feminism, but it started. I even shared something in my group the other day, about the fact that when it became to manumissions and single motherhood rates, even when black women were, they gained their freedom during Jim Crow, they still had a high, high motherhood family rate, of them leading their families, even at that point when they could have got married. And the thing what has held the black community get together is the strength of the black man. And this is what Kevin Samuels said. And this is why the conversation is, you have to kind of go back and forth in the history, because you see that when Jim Crow receded itself and you were allowed to marry and jump over the broom to get married and signify and solidify your marriage, black women were marrying black women at over 80%. And I think there are some statistics, even up until the 1960s and the civil rights, that the black community was married at over 80 to over 90% rate, more married than actual white people who had a rate of 60%. And you can go into all of that and the reasons why white men were abandoning their families. So yeah, this is a very important topic, because this is very layered, and this is why I have all the documents, I have all the screenshots, I have all the videos and all the talk shows and TV shows during that time to actually quantify this. Because when a lot of these people, shout out to Dr. T.S. Johnson, Kevin Samuels, BDS Idmore, accountable commentary, because every time they talk about this, everybody wants to shut them down. But as somebody who's living over in the UK, looking at what they're going through, because they have a longer history, and I have, again, an empathetic heart to what they've gone through, I look back and I look through the history and I double check the history, and everything they say is absolutely accurate. But Black women don't want to have that conversation. They still want to blame the dysfunction, the decay on Black men. And it's simply not true. It's simply not true. But I'll end this part here. My name is Iman. I'm your host, Purposeful Patriots. Feel free to send me an email. Hope you're well. But thank you very much. I appreciate you having and listening to this episode. Grace and peace and bondage.